It's been really wonderful to do this series, and it is our 6th official one. It's our 7th because we practiced with friends and family in the beginning to make sure that we could pull this off. But you guys keep showing up, and we had almost 90 people register for this, and I think that says a lot about who the TBBW audience is. You guys care about your employees. You care about the people that you lost sleep about the people you had to furlough or lay off. And so I'm really proud to be bringing this conversation of how we can help those people, and really proud of you guys because you care enough to be here and listen. So without further ado, we have an amazing panel of experts, and I'm going to start with Jessica and ask you one of our questions that was submitted, which is, will there be, or is there currently, a repository of resources for community access that would encompass all of the support, including but not limited to training, jobs, food banks, access to mental health counseling, childcare, etc.?
Thank you, Bridgette. I'm Jessica Muroff. I'm the CEO for United Way Suncoast. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be on this panel with Dave and Michael. Yes, there is a repository. Actually, United Way Suncoast launched our page. It's a website that, the 3rd week of March. That includes all of what you've just stated. It has access to training and current job listings, food banks, access to the mental health counseling. All of those links are on one page on our website that our community can access. We keep that updated multiple times a day. So that is something that I would say, is a great resource. It's unitedwaysuncoast.org. But we're also convening agencies. So a lot of our nonprofit partners we're convening on a regular basis so that they're providing information and we're sharing information so that we can update that regularly. And then of course, if anybody's having access, trouble accessing technology, they can always call 211. And 211 is the best, place to call if you need access to any of these resources and having them direct you and provide those connections directly to any individuals in our community.
Couldn't have been teed up better for that question, could you? That's awesome the way that worked out. Dave, would you like to weigh in on this one?
No, thank you, Bridgette. I'm Dave Pizzo. I'm the market president for Florida Blue for the west coast of Florida, 14 counties from Hernando down to Collier. And as many of you know, we have Florida Blue centers. They're like Apple stores for healthcare and health insurance. And what we've done over the last year, we've hired a social worker for each of the Florida Blue centers. So the social worker can put people in contact with all kinds of resources, not just health related. It could be food security, rent assistance. Many of the nonprofits the great nonprofits we have in the area included United Way, Crisis Center, et cetera. But a social worker is there, not just for Florida Blue members, but for anyone in the public. So that's there and available at any time. And they're trained to support the community and any of its residents. I should say the retail centers are open virtually. You can't actually go in. They've been closed down like everything else, but you can call this number. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see it. There we go. That number, 877-352-5830, and they'll connect you with your local retail center. There are 4 right here in Tampa Bay, and they'll put you in touch with the people that live and work in your community for assistance.
That's fantastic. One of the things that I got as a Florida Blue member also from you guys was the ability to have somebody on the other end of the phone that speaks Spanish. My mother-in-law is Cuban and doesn't speak a whole lot of English. And so I immediately sent it to my husband and said, you should send this to your mom. And I thought that was a really cool thing that you guys were doing. So thank you for that. All right, let's move on to Mike at the Workforce Institute. What free education or training is available to those who are laid off to help them transition into a new career?
Thank you, Bridgette. I appreciate you having me here this evening. I'm the Dean of Workforce Development for St. Petersburg College, and a part of my role is to ensure that the Pinellas County and Tampa Bay area has a field pipeline of skilled workers that are ready to enter the workplace and enhance the local economy. And being furloughed or laid off is an extremely traumatic event for individuals. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes with that. and it creates a great deal of stress and anxiety for the individual. And for people who have lost their jobs, the best advice I can give right now is a great time to reskill. Take advantage of some of the resources that are available through our local workforce development boards to take some training programs and get yourself into a position to where you can improve your standing within the workplace and the workforce with the right skills and training at this time. The primary modality of education has been online. At St. Petersburg College, we have an advantage because we're one of the forerunners in online education. We've been doing it for over 20 years. This has given us an advantage as educational students have tried to make that transition. And right now, there's over 55 completely online credit-based workforce degree programs and workforce certificate programs that many people can complete with no cost to themselves through the use of federal financial aid, such as the Pell Grant. People who've been laid off will also qualify for funding through the WIOA Act, and through that can be obtained through our local workforce board. Also to assist individuals who've been laid off, the Workforce Institute is going to offer 10 free online courses that they'll be able to have access to through June 30th that has a ton of information and resources and skill development opportunities available for anybody looking to upskill or reskill during this time. And I'll put the link to that site to access those free courses in the chat bar. And it's definitely something that we want to make sure that we're doing our part to help the community as they look to rebound.
Fantastic. And most of you know I'm a proud board member, vice chair actually of the SBC Board of Trustees, and it really makes me happy and proud to see the things we're doing to give people the opportunity to get back into the workforce. Jessica, do you have anything from the United Way perspective to add to that question?
So just one quick thing, and I'd like to note that Dave and I serve on, we just wrapped up our recommendations for the reemployment task force for the Tampa EDC, which was charged with Hillsborough County to create our kind of emergence plan in response to this. And the county's received significant funding from the CARES Act, and so significant dollars that are going to be going back to training programs like this. So identifying opportunities and in sectors that, are still thriving despite, what we're experiencing now, and offering job training and paid work experience programs that are being pulled together right now. The final recommendations are going to the county so that we can stand up these programs immediately. CareerSource is already standing all these programs up. And so we're going to be promoting and getting all of the communications out about how those who have been furloughed or laid off can get access to those programs. Dave, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it was just really robust. I'd say it's probably one of the most effective committees we've been on. A number of us, we had 3 sessions. It's been really good. So I'm looking forward to the execution of the strategy. The county commissioners put quite a bit of money in on top of what was already being spent, but a lot of energy, a lot of good ideas, and I think it's going to be well received.
Yeah, I don't know if she's on or not. I can't look and pay attention and talk at the same time. I'm a good multitasker, but not that good. But Sandy Berman registered to attend today, so maybe at the end, if she's on, we can ask her to say a few words. As employers, we have had to sit across the desk from people and say, oh, but you'll have COBRA as an option. And we all know that as wonderful as COBRA as an option is, it's also extremely expensive. Are there other options that are available to furloughed or laid off employees other than COBRA? Dave, you want to take that one?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. I spend more of my time and my team's time going over that. There are some great options. As you know, COBRA is quite expensive. And when you're unemployed, it's even more expensive. But there are many options available to individuals that are laid off or furloughed through the Affordable Care Act. And many plans could potentially, depending on income levels, could be basically at no cost either. In most cases, I can't guarantee they'll be less than COBRA, but people are quite surprised to find out what's available with premium subsidies for great health plans. So probably the most important thing somebody can do, not try to figure this out themselves, but to go, I'll give another plug for one of our Florida Blue centers, or talk to one of our agents on the phone, one of our brokers out in the community. There are many that represent Florida Blue. But speak to somebody that really understands the language, knows the intricacies. It's really quite complicated, but many people will be very surprised at how affordable individual policies are, particularly if they're not working. And that's one of the really important things that they can do at this point. There's also other things that are available, lots of support at the Florida Blue Center that I mentioned that they can get through the social workers and others. But really understand it's called a special enrollment period, and generally you have 60 days from the time you're furloughed or laid off to apply for a plan. And then if you go back to work, you can discontinue that plan. And we're doing some things with employers that allow no waiting period, that employees can go right back on the employer's plan. And that's been very helpful.
That's great. Thank you. So speaking of those who are looking for work, Mike, what are some of the strategies that you would recommend that people who've lost their jobs employ moving forward?
Bridget, again, I'll have to go back to reskilling and upskilling. I think it's one of the most important things they can do at this time to prep themselves for this post-COVID job market. But in addition to doing that, they want to make sure that they have an updated resume. Going back through, if you haven't been in a position where you've been looking for a job for a while, people find that their resumes may be a little bit outdated. So go into websites like employflorida.com, which is a great repository of jobs that are available and open across the state. It's a great place to upload that resume. Of course, Indeed, Monster.com, LinkedIn are all other great tools that job seekers are using. But you absolutely want to make sure that when you're ready to start applying for a job, you've tailored your resume for each job that you're applying for. If it's a good opportunity to highlight each of the transferable skills you have, that if you're looking to make a career change, because employers now are looking for skills, and transferable skills sometimes aren't highlighted in resumes. So you want to make sure you do a good job of describing the work that you've done in a certain area that may be transferable over to a different field. When you're searching on job search sites, one of the things that you want to really key in the search box as keywords are urgently hiring, working from home, and remote. Because employers are all adapting to this virtual work environment as well, and they're shifting to virtual workspaces, and they want to make sure that employees are understanding and have the skill set to operate in this virtual environment that we're all thrust in. And if you look for those keywords, you'll kind of put to the top of your list the companies that are able to hire right now. You want to narrow your search down once you've gotten a broad group of jobs that are available in the area that you're looking to work in, and use that the filters within those job search engines to look for particular zip codes, particular areas, or particular responsibilities that you feel like you're going to be a better fit for. So, because there's a plethora, if you do one of these job searches, there's a plethora of jobs that are come up, but many of them have the capability where you can set up alerts that meet your specific criteria that you know are going to be a good fit for you. There's tons of virtual resources that are going on right now, virtual job fairs. CareerSource Tampa Bay, CareerSource PANELISTS is teaming up with Tech Data to offer one in June, particularly for individuals looking for careers in the tech area. But those virtual hiring events are also a great place to keep your eyes out for in order to make sure that you're making yourself available for all opportunities that come up. Of course, professional organizations, using your network, your personal network, or your family, your friends to find out who's hiring and when jobs are going to be coming available is also a time-tested strategy to making sure that you're abreast of any opportunities that may be about to become available.
That's a lot of great information. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to go off script a little bit. Just sorry, I always warn you guys that I might do this.
Uh-oh.
Should there always be a cover letter, and should there always be a thank you note after an interview?
Absolutely. I'll go first on that one. You always want to write a cover letter, and definitely follow up with a thank you after the interview has taken place. It really separates you from a lot of candidates, and it makes sure your employer knows that you're very thoughtful and considerate as you're going through that process.
Yeah, I won't hire somebody that doesn't send me a thank you note after an interview. So it's an ongoing debate with 3 24-year-olds who were working to be employed over the last year after graduation. I'm like, send a thank you note. All right, so going back to Dave, this is a question that was also submitted. What level of support can be provided beyond financial support, and how are companies investing in supporting laid off workers in such a challenging economy?
Yeah, I think, I hate to keep dwelling on it, but I think steering people towards our social workers or other social workers available. There are some other programs. I know United Way has some partners as well. But to really understand what's available, don't wait till you get into too much trouble. Understand what's out there. Again, understand a lot of people are under stress because it's a crisis. They might be losing their health coverage at the worst time. And like I said, there's probably options that could take some of that stress off. Many employers have EAP programs, employee assistance programs, and I know even myself probably take it for granted. Those are great programs that can do so many good things, not only in a time of crisis, but especially in a time of crisis. Take advantage of those things. We talk about furloughed workers, and what we're finding is even with our own employees, many times let's say one of the parents, if you will, is working, but their spouse or partner lost their job, so their income changed a lot, even though they're one of them's employed, and that's a huge problem. So again, please take advantage of the different programs that are out there through the community, the nonprofits. Social workers can steer you to those, and we even have through our behavioral health company free counseling, mental wellness conversations for anyone in Florida that's available. The other thing that's available too, and this is through some of the medical practices we own in Pinellas County and Hillsborough County. If you're a Florida Blue member, most of our plans, people that are fully insured versus self-insured larger companies, you can go in without not have to pay co-pays and deductibles on certain products if you have those plans and go to our clinics. So that helps a lot on the financial side.
That's great, thank you.
Could I add something?
Absolutely.
So I just want to reiterate, just because we provide funding year round to our 211s for this exact reason. So 211 is a great resource for financial support when you've lost a job. I would also suggest our city and county governments too have also have funds that can be accessed to provide support.
Well, and we were talking on the phone earlier to our friends at Metropolitan Ministries, and they were telling us they had paid rent for 2,000 people.
Yeah.
2,000 people they've paid rent for since this whole thing started. So we're blessed to be in a community that has a lot of resources and a whole lot of love. So Jessica, since you volunteered on that one, why don't you talk about what you have seen the Paycheck Protection Program do for our local business community? I mean, I know we joke all the time that for a week, everyone that we knew that was a banker, which is a lot of our friends and contacts, were completely off the radar. I mean, they were so underwater, but have you seen it have a positive impact? Talk about that from your perspective.
So I'm going to speak to it from the nonprofit sector perspective, because that's the perspective that I have. And since we've been convening our nonprofit partners, it was not an easy process for nonprofits at all. Because we're a little bit different than your typical small business, but we're an incredibly large sector of employment in this region. And so it was really important for our nonprofit organizations and partners to be able to apply for these funds and receive them, because over the months of March, April, May, and now 80% of nonprofits have had to cancel fundraising events. And so they've had some real challenges with revenue. And so this was a really important program. So I have to give kudos, because from what I can see in my convening calls to our community banks, they really stepped up for our nonprofit partners and to help them get the resources and support that they needed during the most critical time, because we rely on these organizations to provide services in a crisis. And so it's really important that these funds were made available to them, and that there was, that kind of support. And our community banks, I could say, really did an outstanding job in helping our nonprofit sector. And I just want to give them kudos.
I know we have some bankers on the line, so I'm sure they appreciate that. This one might be a little bit difficult, but I'll ask our employment expert. It's a question that was posted. What type of outplacement services are you offering your terminated employees to assist them with their next chapter in their career? Mike, you want to take that one?
Sure, Bridget. I think that we can't overlook our local workforce development boards. CareerSource Tampa Bay, CareerSource PANELISTS. The state has designated them for exactly this purpose. If they're employees who've been terminated or displaced, they have a ton of services that are available to assist them as they make that transition. Employability skills workshops. We're actually partnering with CareerSource PANELISTS right now to offer some employability skills training virtually for them. Joseph Benavidez, I think he's on the call, has been helping to facilitate those for them. And they provide training vouchers for individuals looking to reskill or upskill within their existing profession. Tons of professional networking events targeted to give them opportunities to connect with other employers and network in order to try to enhance their job opportunities. They do a number of online recruiting events that we talked about before. And they're a great resource for labor market information. If you're contemplating a career change or want to see when the market is going to pivot for your particular chosen career field, they're a great resource and a great help in that regard. So I think we have to make sure that we utilize our local workforce development board to their fullest as employees are looking to transition. I also think that there's a lot of opportunities for large employers as they're furloughing and laying off large numbers of employees, to kind of give them a softer landing as they're being let go. One of the new things that just came out was Disney, as they've had to furlough a large number of employees from their facilities, working with a local community college in order to provide educational benefits, as a part of their transition package, so that they can upskill and reskill in the interim until they get back up and running at full capacity. And I thought that was an excellent idea, and it will be an awesome opportunity for some of our local companies to do the same thing here.
That's great. Dave, we talked a little bit about COBRA and the Affordable Care Act. Are there any other programs that are being offered to help companies keep their furloughed employees on their health insurance?
Yes, there's actually, quite a few. I mentioned some of the things were being done, but we've provided, actually this week we announced that we were providing $100 million in healthcare cost relief to individual, fully insured group and Medicare Advantage members through increases in wellness rewards. It's really an innovative program, and an individual that buys their individual insurance and multiple people in the home can qualify if they register for our wellness program and go online and participate. You can earn up to $500 for that towards the premium costs and other healthcare costs. So that's very significant. We have a new program with group members, fully insured groups. Most group members would qualify for $300 if they participate in our Better You program, wellness program. So those are pretty significant savings for many people that buy their own insurance on the lower end of the income spectrum. That $500 might cover their premium for the year. So that's pretty significant. We've also waived Medicare Advantage cost sharing, so that helps on the senior side. No cost sharing through the end of the year. We've instituted also telehealth through Teledoc, no charge for any of our members for Teledoc. So there's no reason anybody couldn't go to the physician. But there's some of the things we're doing to kind of ease the burden for employers and employees.
Are they even allowed to keep furloughed employees on their health insurance? Is that an employer's choice?
Yes, that's something new right now, I believe. That was one of the new things that went put in place. There's some issues on how you make the payments for that. But yes, employers can keep their employees on their health plan while they're furloughed. And another new thing that is very significant, usually if you are furloughed or laid off, and assume you don't continue with your health plan, because if the business is really hurting and they can't afford it, they're not going to pay for it. But when the business ramps up again, this is a new feature that you can join immediately without a waiting period. Many companies have a 30, 60, 90-day waiting period. We've waived that for a good portion of the year to help employees get back on health plans.
That's great. Okay, Jessica, here's another question that was submitted from our attendees. Employees of color have been the largest group impacted by the pandemic and loss of jobs. What are you doing to address the diversity of possible disproportionate job losses?
Oh my gosh, OMG.
Oh goodness. Sorry, I just heard somebody else. So if we're looking at unemployment data, we won't receive the next comprehensive report for April until May 22nd. But what we can see we know that the unemployment claims are just skyrocketing. But if we look at March, certainly individuals of color are disproportionately being impacted by the pandemic as far as the health is concerned. Loss of jobs, when we look at March, it was actually disproportionate impact on women, younger, less educated workers within our region, and really highly concentrated on our traditional urban working class neighborhoods. And I'm sure April's going to paint a more comprehensive and even bigger problems. But this is something that we focus on daily. We have neighborhood centers that are located in communities that need this support specifically, and in neighborhoods that we can do specific outreach, especially to families and individuals of color. That's something that's been a part of what we do at United Way for a very long time. We're also a part of a group called Unite PANELISTS, and so which is a collective of other nonprofit organizations and leaders throughout Pinellas County, where we're really taking a look at making sure that policies and funding and other services are in fact, helping our individuals of color throughout our region and throughout our community. So it's definitely something that we're hypersensitive to, and making sure that we're providing support and services. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our ALICE report came out last Monday. And that's an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, but Employed. And this is a really deep data dive into, our wages and struggles of individuals and families throughout the state of Florida. And so within this report, and this is 2018 data, our federal poverty line for Florida, the number of individuals who are at the federal poverty line is 13%. Our ALICE families who are working but don't make enough to make ends meet is 33%. So 46% of the individuals in the state of Florida were either ALICE population or below the federal poverty line. And that is significant, and that is pre-COVID. And so our data, we can get really granular in looking by zip code to making sure that we can point services and provide support in specific areas that need it the most. And the Tampa Bay Partnership does this as well. They're really drilling down in their data too with the unemployment claims. So we're remaining hyper vigilant and hyper focused on this. So there's more to come as we learn more from the data when it comes out.
That's great. Mike or Dave, anything to add to that?
I think she nailed it. There's a significant portion of the population, especially people of color, that are being impacted right now. They've historically held some of those frontline jobs in retail and customer service and hospitality that have been hit the hardest by this COVID crisis. And the great, I think, equalizer in that leveling that landscape is education. I think we have to continue to educate that community, continue to retrain and reskill that group of workers who have been impacted so that they can improve their financial outlook going forward. I think you're also going to see a lot of people shifting towards opening small businesses once we actually get back to work and recover. I think that entrepreneurial track is going to be very attractive to people who have been hit hard by this pandemic, and it's a great way to build another stream of income that may be able to sustain you through difficult times like this.
Yeah, if I could add one thing to that, this goes back to some of the work of the Tampa Bay Partnership, but one of the factors in family income, particularly in lower income neighborhoods, is transit. We know we don't have great transit in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of work going on in that field, but if you can't get a ride to work that's reasonable to the better jobs, you stay closer to home generally, and that's not good for anyone. It's just very interesting during this pandemic times, while there probably are a lot less work at home opportunities in some of these neighborhoods, with the right training and educational programs and things that Jessica and Mike were talking about. Think about it, if people could work from their home, they had a good environment, they can have good jobs working from their home and take transportation out of the mix. Yeah. That could be a game changer longer term, and something we should look at.
Well, Mike, I hope you're right about that entrepreneurial spirit and small businesses coming out of the woodwork. I think that would be amazing that's what this community is built on. So that's where we have a whole lot of strengths. And someone had posted, actually it was Cal Jackson had posted that he would like a copy of the Alice report. So I don't know if that's something that could be put in the chat.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
UnitedForAlice.org, and you can drill down in very specific ways.
Okay. Thank you. So Dave, you talked a little bit about mental health and what you guys are doing to address that. I mean, obviously losing your job is a pretty big hit sometimes to your psyche, your self-esteem. Also with the whole working from home, I'm hearing people are lonely. So is there anything other than what you already spoke about that any other resources that we can provide to our employees that have been laid off or furloughed in order to address their mental health issues?
Yeah, I'd say take advantage of some of these different opportunities. We've talked about here's our number for, I don't think it's coming out too good here, but our emotional support helpline. It's available to anyone.
I think Christy posted it in the chat.
She did?
I think so.
She's a step ahead of me. No, I would say take advantage of these programs. Don't think you're in it alone. I mean, there's I don't know the exact number, almost 40 million people have been laid off or furloughed, lost their jobs literally over the last 6 or 8 weeks. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. So no one's in it. We're all in it together. I know that's a slogan we see around COVID-19, but it really is so true. And don't think you have to go it alone. Ask for help. Again, Jessica talked about a lot of resources, the 211 hotline, cities, counties, people are coming together. And I think even maybe joining some of these virtual groups and things like this to talk to people, get ideas, network. Just don't try to kind of stay and do it yourself, because that's not good. The whole country's going through this. It's not a one-off, and we've never seen anything like it. So ask for help, talk to family, friends. People are willing to help when they can. Network, but take advantage of some professional help, when it's available, I'd say.
Great. So Jose and I have joked through the whole 50 days that we were in quarantine together. Thank goodness we like each other. And can't imagine being, already in an unhappy marriage and then being stuck for that long in a house. Jessica, has there been an increase in domestic violence through this?
Oh, yes. Is that for me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I was responding in my head to Cal's. I need to get Cal the report. Forgive me. So yes, but it's still emerging. For many people in our communities, safer at home is not safer at home.
Right.
And so from what from my conversations with Mindy Murphy at the Spring and Lariana over at CASA, while their hotline and outreach numbers have definitely stayed very high, they're seeing more survivors with multiple, high-risk factors, whether that be, just all kinds of very terrible things, you know, extreme jealousy, weapons in the house, etc. But many of these survivors are expressing fear of seeking shelter assistance because of COVID-19. So they're not wanting to leave the house for that. So right now, the number of people at the shelters are low. But the Spring of Tampa Bay, they have the largest injunction for protection program in the state of Florida, and they're about to reach a month of their highest amount. So, you know, so I think that we're going to see it increase. It's going to change, you know, in the coming months, now that things are starting to open back up again, because that's not a safe place to be for many in our community. And as far as, I think you also asked about substance abuse, right?
I was going to.
To read her mind.
Yeah.
That's how prepared we are. I'm just really dedicated to getting Cal the report. Anyways, so those trends, similar to you know, to the domestic violence statistics, those are still emerging. So if we look at 2018 compared to 2019, 2019 was a huge increase, and so. And 2020 was already on track to staying high like it was in 2019. And so,
Wait, can you clarify what was increased?
Substance abuse.
Okay, got it.
Sorry, substance abuse. And so they had more overdose deaths in 2019 than they had in 2018, and 2020 was still on track to being that high. And so while they're not, because of the social distancing and having, you know, to stay at home, the problem is access to services. So treatment programs, you know, 12-step programs and all these other things, are not being, you know, attended right now. And so they're worried about the impact of not having those preventative response services, and what that's going to be like, the downstream effect. And treatment referrals have increased from, you know, through child welfare reports, but other treatment referrals have decreased because of, you know, courts, arrests, and probation being closed or reduced contact to people.
Dave, anything to add to that?
Nope, she did a great job. Excellent.
All right. So I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I always like to circle back and make sure that we didn't miss anything. And somebody had submitted the question are there programs to help companies and individuals offset their healthcare expenses right now? Dave, is there anything that we didn't already cover?
Yeah, no, just the what I talked about, the reward program, and at least for employers, maybe I didn't say this before, but we are providing some deferral of premiums for employers. We were doing it through May, and now we've just extended this week. We announced it that we're doing it through June, so that might help. But employers really need to talk to their brokers. Their brokers can do a great job in working with them.
Awesome. So Dave's the market president for Florida Blue. Jessica's the CEO at United Way. Mike is the dean of the Workforce Institute for SPC. We're all leaders. And none of us have ever had to be virtual leaders before. So why don't you guys talk about some of the challenges and some of the things that have worked well for you in your own businesses being a virtual leader, and maybe some tips and advice that you would share with people on the call? I'll pick on Jessica first.
So this is a really interesting time. I am a brand new CEO to United Way. I've only been here for 6 months. So, you know, 3 or 4 months into this, having to respond to a crisis of this magnitude can be overwhelming at times. But I have to say that I'm so proud of our team for how we pivoted. I'm going to use that word, Jason, to a to a virtual work environment. And some of the key things that I think have made us really successful with that is that we're a staff of 63, and we convene our entire team twice a day in huddles. I think that convening and sharing information, you know, when you're in a time of uncertainty and crisis, the more transparent and forthcoming and proactive you can be with information and what's going on, the better. I think that provides greater stability and confidence in your team. So we've been convening on a regular basis. We've been very transparent and sharing about what what our priorities are, what our successes and challenges and wins are. We're doing lots of videos to sharing with our donors and with our community, lots of webinars to keep them up to speed on great partnerships and good stories and things that are happening. And the last thing that I'll share is in our afternoon huddles. And some of my team are on here. They may roll their eyes, but I think they like it. We have a thing where we do, where we share, and it's happy, hard, and hoping. So our team, they can share something that made them happy, something that was hard, or something that they're hoping for. And the stories and the sharing that we've had from that have been just so awesome. So I know my team better now than I've ever known them before, and I thank the pandemic for that.
Yeah, we're back in the office now and never realized how much we really loved being together until we weren't.
Right.
But when we were all at home, we were doing the same thing, 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock every day. It was like, okay, what are you doing today? And what did you do today? And, you know, like you said, we're looking at each other's dogs and you're seeing kids run by in the background, or, you know, dad doesn't know they're there and they're waving and making funny faces. And so it's really been a fun way to get to see kind of behind the scenes and a peek into the personal lives of some of those people. Dave, why don't you talk about things that that you've done from a virtual leadership perspective?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Again, we have about 12,000 employees and about 11,500 within 10 days that we started this 2 months ago, we're working at home. Now, a lot of people like me can work anywhere, it doesn't matter, but a lot of employees couldn't, particularly in the service organization, others. So we had to equip them with computers and phones and, you know, just new processes and procedures. You still have to follow HIPAA guidelines, but it's been amazingly smooth. People are understanding. I'd say from a leadership perspective, the number one thing has been, Jessica talked about a communication, letting people know what's going on. We don't have the answers. Even now, when are we going back to work? And we had a big all management meeting today across the whole company. And it's like, well, we are at work. I mean, it was like the head of HR just opened it up and said, when are we going back to work? We are at work. We are at work. We're not losing a beat. It's more communications. I would say one thing that's been very effective is telling employees it's business as usual. If we have regular meetings, we're doing them. They're just, you know, on the phone, or we use Skype, not so much video internally, but we're having them. They may be shorter, they may be different, but everything seems a little more productive. Maybe people are paying a little more attention, less, I don't know, gossip in the office, water cooler talk. But the metrics are good. But one thing I found effective is just these kind of touch-base meetings. No topic. How are you doing? What's going on? What challenges you face? And one of the things we found, I'm sure you too, when both parents work and now they got to be teachers at the same time. I mean, the first couple of weeks that they had to learn, you know, how to do the virtual classes and the IT, and maybe only have one computer in your house, extra one, and you got 3 kids. This was real life stuff. So I think listening to it, adapting, letting people talk about it, being flexible. Hey, if you got to be doing, you know, schoolwork between 10 and 10:30, let's not schedule a key meeting then. So we're trying to do that. Big company, but we're trying to act like a small company in that regard. And one thing we've done, we've given all non-exempt employees a half-hour a day for, I don't know what you call it, there's a name for it, but basically extra free time. And if you need to go and do something for a half hour outside of work, aside from your normal breaks or lunch, you know, just take it, just code it, and you're not getting docked. And that we introduced that, and that's only about a week now, and we're starting to get some really good results. And I'm not sure how many people are going to use it, but they appreciate it. Anyway, constant good communication about what's going on, particularly from the health side. What's going on? When do you think this is going to start hopefully getting better, stuff like that. But it's been a challenge. One last thing, I know I'm rambling here. It's been more of a challenge for the people who usually are in our home office that don't work remote ever and are used to having people in meetings live and doing the flip chart thing and seeing people's expressions. So a lot of the very cool thing is it's an equalizer. Everybody's working remote, and now everybody has to learn to run a meeting when you don't have live people in the room. And I think it's a game changer. I think it's going to enable great talent to be hired anywhere, remotely. And I think it's going to affect commercial real estate too, in maybe a negative way. But anyway, that's some of the things we're doing.
Yeah, I won't plug our previous, I think it was last week, all the weeks, we keep saying days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years. But we held one of these virtual connects about the future of commercial real estate and what that's going to look like. So if anybody wants to see the recording, we do have it available. Sorry for the shameless plug. You were talking about, Dave, some of the things that you guys are offering, and we're a tiny team, as most of you know, but I've heard some really cool stories. I was on the phone with No Before people, 2 days ago now, and she was telling me that they gave every employee like $250, don't quote me on this, guys, but like $250 a month to pay for the toilet paper and the coffee and the water and the things that the employees were used to having access to 8 hours a day for free at the office, that now they're having to fund at home. And I thought that was a really cool idea. I also shared an office with my husband and got to see some of the cool things that his company was doing. And they did bingo for the whole company one Friday. They did a trivia thing on a bunch of employees one Friday. They are doing a virtual 5K this Friday. So I'm glad I'm back at the office. But there is some really neat, innovative things that are going on out there, and I love hearing this from you guys. Mike, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, Jessica and David gave some great points, and I think communications at the center of that is key. And like Jessica, I'm fairly new to my position. I've been in it for 5 months now, and 2 of them have been during Corona. So it's been really accelerated my learning curve, getting to know my teammates and my employees. But I will say this, is that the communication piece cannot be understated. When you're in the office together, you walk by, hey, how you doing? That little time that you have to just kind of chit chat and catch up and, and loop yourself into ways you can assist one another is missing when you're in that virtual environment. It's easy to feel isolated and feel alone if you're not very intentional about setting up those communication touch points. So our president, Dr. Williams, did a phenomenal job of laying the groundwork as we made this shift and transition in a couple of days, literally, to fully online work and fully online instruction. And at the center of that was creating a community of care, being understanding with one another as everybody's trying to deal with this pandemic and the psychological impacts on that, and understanding that working from home is not the norm for many employees. So you may hear a kid in the background that you're homeschooling at the same time as you're trying to work. You may hear a dog that runs across. It doesn't understand that, oh, you're only here now because you can't go to work, and not there to give them all of your attention. All of those things are, the people are the heart of, being a true team, are the things that she instilled that were important for us as we made this shift to online. So I think that was a huge compass for making sure that we did our jobs as efficiently as possible, being as human as possible as we made this change to online learning and online work.
Well, as a trustee, I can second that. I was amazed at how quickly we were able to make that turn. And I know there's a lot to be said for state colleges being able to be more nimble, but that's also how we serve the employers better and why we should be connected to them and solving the problems that they're facing.
Absolutely.
So it is 5:25. We only have 5 minutes left, and we've been getting some really good questions from the audience. I'm going to call out Cal Jackson. He is with Tech Data, and he said, some large companies like us put a freeze on hiring. Is anyone hiring now, or are most waiting for the end of the pandemic? Any of you guys want to answer?
I'll answer it. We are hiring. We have either right now or soon to have about 750 jobs that we're recruiting for. About 500 of them are contractor positions, mostly individual insurance agents that we hire on a seasonal basis. But right now, either right now or very shortly, about 250 positions.
Yeah, David, and I'll jump in and say that there are some companies that are hiring that have greatly increased their online job postings since the COVID pandemic. Of course, a lot of our grocery stores have picked up their employment practices. A lot of the food delivery services have picked up hiring. Sprouts Farmers Market, 393% increase in job ads since March. Aldi, 7-Eleven, a lot of the convenience stores, Wawa, have definitely increased hiring as there's been an increased demand for their services. But I think that many companies like Tech Data are waiting to see what happens, but many others are seeing that as their business increases, there's an opportunity to grab some high quality employees that may have been displaced due to COVID-19 that they want to take advantage of.
Jessica, you want to add anything?
Just that we provide links to all of the all of the job opportunities and listings that we find on that website that I mentioned on our United Way Suncoast website. Great.
Sorry, I'm trying to check the chat, check my cell phone. I'm getting questions like sent to me in all kinds of different formats. Employees are feeling uneasy and have a fear of judgment based on the company, other employees being able to see into their homes. Oh, interesting. Or their private life. Not everyone has a private office. What advice do you guys have for controlling and not allowing that bias to impact employees moving forward? I'm not answering that.
You can have contests for great Zoom backgrounds.
Virtual backgrounds like ours, right?
Right.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way.
I haven't thought about that either. That's I know that, you know, we all get embarrassed when our dogs act crazy or our kids, you know, come running and doing something, you know, or my husband prints like 66-page things and the printer's really loud in my office.
You know, it's funny though. I mean, hopefully this is helpful. We have said on our team, we feel closer to our clients and our prospects. We feel like we know them better. We're not looking to see like, you know, what's the couch look like in the background. I think that, not to minimize the question, but sometimes I think maybe we focus on the wrong things, right? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't judging anyone when I was looking into I mean, Jolynn was in her bedroom, you know, Chelsea sometimes was at the kitchen table. Jason was outside by the pool. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, whatever. I mean, we were just happy to connect. So
we find the same thing. It's meeting everybody's pets and, you know,
Yep.
people wearing different funny hats. And I mean, our team has been really creative. We haven't seen that as an issue being brought up.
You know, it's funny because especially when this started, you know, you would hear a kid in the background or a dog barking. In the old days, it's like, shh, you know, I forgot to put it on mute and the dog's barking, the mailman's coming, you know, from just working at home. And now it's like, you know, I thank people, especially in the beginning. It's like, oh, you're home. That's fantastic. You're not trying to go to the work. Or, hey, how's it going with your kid? Let's see your kid. I've heard people even team meetings, they'll just say, hey, you're going to get noises. And it's just the way it is. And here's my kid. And they'll pull the kid out and put him in front of the Zoom camera and say, hey, there's you know, Joey or something, and make it fun. But I want to just say something. Maybe it's kind of my own question, but I'm going to answer it. It has made a lot of people feel a lot closer, I've heard, in a lot of ways. People are touching base more, if not meetings, individual, how you doing, we're texting. We got a group text that my key management, and it's like fun stuff. It's not, hey, I'm out walking tonight, the dog, and I have a beautiful sunset, look at that. And somebody may send something funny, or here's a recipe, or does anybody want a, you know, a olive tree to plant in your yard, but all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. I was part of a group that works with SOCOM officers to help them go into retirement. It's called the STARS Group. Some of you may be part of that or know it. And one of the things they were talking about is, geez, we're all kind of touching base a lot more probably, and it's pretty efficient. When we go back to work, and you got a lot more meetings, live things and all that. What are we going to do? Because it's probably going to be a little less personal, and it's counterintuitive in some ways. If you are doing that, touch base a lot and this kind of fun stuff, and then you go back to the old way, which isn't bad. It's just different. What does it look like, you know, in 6 months or a year or whatever that is? It'd be interesting.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be very interesting. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I don't know what just happened to my computer. Sorry, technology, fun. It is 5:30, and we did promise. Actually, it's 5:31. We promised our wonderful panelists that we would not force them to stay on longer than 5:30. I think one of the coolest things about this that we've seen is after doing 6 of these, like last week, 50 people stayed on and drank and talked and networked for an hour. So nobody has to leave, everybody can stay. But I want to make sure before people start to drop off that I thank Jessica with United Way Suncoast, Dave with Florida Blue, and Mike with the Workforce Institute at SPC. You guys did an amazing job and provided some really valuable information that I think we can provide to our laid off and furloughed employees. And one of our kind of running jokes in the office has been that between Jason and I, we have 6 kids that were of employment age, 5 of which had jobs, and only 1 of which still had a job after this all started. So I think there's very few of us that haven't been touched in one way or another by this thing, or having to lay off or furlough our own employees. So I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Kudos to the 85 people that registered because they cared enough to sit on this and to try to help the people that are hurting the most during this thing. And thank you again very much, Florida Blue, United Way, Suncoast, and SPC for being our esteemed panelists with all the wisdom and all the answers. And I think Jason's going to open it up now in case none of you noticed. Pivot is a drinking game at our office and in our homes. If you say pivot, everyone has to drink. So I suggest you don't say pivot.
I did get questions behind the scenes about that, about what, did I miss something? What's this pivot thing? So yes, I will unmute everyone now. Feel free to chat and just be courteous, and let's hang out for a little bit.
Okay.